Hello, my name is Dana Steiner, and this is the presentation on Who Am I Becoming? The first question is, who am I? Obviously, I'm Dana Steiner. I am a wife. I am the mother of two, and I am currently an assistant principal in the Kent School District, as well as a doctoral student in the EDLR program, and I am a learner and an advocate for children and families. What do I believe? Well, I went back and reflected on one of our very first blogs that we did when we introduced who we were. And at that time, I said everyone is capable of learning and growing, and adult education should be engaging, relevant, provide opportunities for practice, and also provide feedback. But what you see here that's bolded is really what I've learned and now what I believe based on all of our various course readings. So embedding critical reflection into adult learning, making sure that we're thinking globally, that we're integrating technology, that our experiences that we're having in the classroom evoke emotion, and that the entire adult learning experience impacts the mind, body, and spirit. What are my values and commitments or ethics? Number one is my family. My family is extremely important to me. And what I do and why I do it every day is because of my students, staff, and the families that I work with. Again, in bold is things that have changed since the beginning of this course. I now see a need to not only have a commitment to my family and my school community, but my community at large and the global society. I also see that a need for equal rights and opportunities for all, and a balance between mind, body, and spirit. I would say at the beginning of this course, my values and commitments were very much centered around the idea of hope, and that all adults and all children are capable of success. But now I realize that hope is a good starting point, but it needs to be a catalyst for more. And so this course has taught me to research, question, and get involved, not just to hope that it happens. I need to be one that can bring these opportunities to the classroom and to my community. And if I'm not doing it, who else is? What am I doing? Well, right now I'm learning, growing, advocating, and fighting by working with adult learners, working within the K-12 system, being a mom. And why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing it for my children, my students at my school, and our community and global society. And what do I hope to achieve by doing this? I hope to increase awareness, kindness, understanding, and acceptance. How has the field changed over time, and what changes do I want to see? Well, it's in reading our class assignments in our textbook and in the articles, it talks about how in the 1800s apprenticeships were more likely to be seen, and that the reason why people received adult education was more for religious and moral specificity versus the change that happened in the early 1900s. The American Association for Adult Education occurred in 1924, and it was more about civic education and democracy. And then around the 1950s, the GI Bill was passed so that veterans could go back to school and learn a skill or a trade. Again, it's still focused on citizenship, but we also saw a trend towards increasing basic literacy, people getting their GEDs, people learning English as their second language, and then higher education. The Higher Education Act happened in 1965. After 1980s, we saw a much different reason. It wasn't just for the betterment of democracy and civic education. It became more of career and personal development with a definite monetary value attached to it. This is when we saw people going back to school to get raises or to move up the corporate ladder. And businesses also started seeing a reason for their employees to go back to work was because they were increasing productivity. From 1990s to present, there's a lot of the personal career and development and monetary value that's attached to education, but we've also seen a much different shift towards social justice and change. critical reflection, and incorporating technology and the idea that the globalization in a global society where we're learning and talking with and collaborating with the cultures all over the world. And the last but not least, the integration of mind, body, and spirit as being a part of continuing education for adults now. What changes do I want to see? In fields like education or healthcare, we have certification requirements that we have to meet. And those recertification requirements usually involve coursework in theory and pedagogy in our related field. What I would love to see are the topics of social justice, critical reflection, globalization, technology, mind, body, and spirit integration, as well as integrating emotions into the coursework for these adults, because I think it would change and impact society at a much higher level. I think it's a way to get the information out to the masses and really do a social justice movement versus only focusing on theory and pedagogy. What are our concerns? I wasn't aware of this until I read all of the articles in our textbook, which is Contemporary Issues in Adult Education. But it focuses a lot on marginalized populations, so English language learners, women, people of different sexual orientations, people with disabilities. I would love to see, which I'm sure that work is out there, we just didn't have a chance to read it in this course, but people of a particular ethnic or country of origin and how they are depicted in higher education. People with differing political orientation, immigrants, refugees, and migrants, and people of differing religions, and how those communities are marginalized in higher education. So I haven't been able to read those yet, but I would love to learn about them too. Other concerns that were mentioned in our readings is the gender gap between men and women, poverty, wealth, and power. Why are we concerned, and what evidence do we have to show for this? Obviously, the research articles that we read in this course shows a lot of evidence, but even just going on the internet, you can see many reasons for concern. The left picture is how much a man's median earnings are versus or compared to that of a female over time and throughout the years. And then on the right, we have our president-elect. This is just two more examples of why we should be concerned. The left are the Native Americans protesting at Standing Rock, and on the right is the percentage of populations that own the country's wealth. How do I understand it in order to improve it? The thing that this course has taught me is to question, listen, research, and get involved. And what more do I need to learn? I need to learn how to integrate this into my teaching and daily life, as well as how to remain open-minded and calm in the face of oppressive opinions, which is something I find very difficult. How can I draw on ideas in the literature and incorporate them into my own understanding? I started with Paulo Freire, and a quote, "Education must begin with the solution of the teacher-student contradiction by reconciling the poles of the contradiction so that both are simultaneously teachers and students." And I think when I'm able to have that mindset, it allows me to be much more open-minded. It also enables me to question and listen because I am not the holder of all knowledge. The students bring so much knowledge, background, and schema to the table and experiences that I don't have. And so being able to remain open, I think will be really important and something I need to incorporate into my own classroom and instruction. The second quote being, "Speak to all students in order to engage them to seek a more just world." And again, this is something that when I'm working with students at my elementary school, not talking down to them, not talking to them just like Paulo said, in that I am the holder of all of the knowledge in there, and the students are containers to be filled, but to get to know one another as human beings is critical. Another one is study oppression instead of those that have been oppressed. from Cranton, and help my students see how beliefs and ideologies have been imposed on them without their knowledge, and how they maintain economic and political inequity. I think it's important to realize I am somebody who comes from white privilege, and I have things that have been put on me, and I have had to unpack those and really dig and find out who I am at the core of my core beliefs and values. And I have to help my students do the same thing. And the culture in which we are raised, sometimes we don't take the opportunity to question, but I think that higher education gives us that lens to critically analyze and reflect upon our beliefs and systems that we have in our lives, and unpack them to make sure that we're doing no harm, and that we are moving forward. What have I learned? How have my assumptions changed, and who am I becoming? I thought when I began my doctorate that I was doing it for career advancement. In actuality, though, my doctorate has definitely reignited my passion for social justice and equality. And one of the things that I've noticed is that when I started my undergrad 15 years ago, I was very much an activist and focused on mind, body, and spirit. But since starting my career, becoming a mom, trying to juggle that home work-life balance, there's many things that I have kind of let go or slide, so that I was able to put energy into different areas. But now that my children are growing, and again, I'm through this coursework and studying, I have definitely found a balance again between becoming that activist, integrating mind, body, and spirit connection in my daily life, and then also doing humanitarian work, which was something that 20 years ago I would have never thought about, but now I find so interesting, and something that I really want to become more and more involved in. So I'm excited to see what that work will look like for me in the future. Where do we go from here? I'm actually not sure for the first time in my probably adult life. I've always known what path I was on and what steps came next. But currently I'm not really sure, and I'm not sure if it has to do with everything that's just going on in our political world. I'm not sure if it has to do with just the protests and everything that we've been reading about in our coursework. All I know is that I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and I'm excited to see where the path leads me as I continue to work with adults in higher education and in the K-12 system.